Okay, so let's talk about Friedrich Nietzsche. In his very first book, this young, pretty unknown philosopher drops a bombshell of an idea, something so radical it basically threatened to flip all of Western thought on its head. And that's what we're diving into today, the wild ideas inside the birth of tragedy.
So right at the heart of the book is this just wild question. He asks, what if art is actually more important than truth? I mean, think about that for a second. What if everything we're taught about science and reason being the key to everything is wrong? What if the real key to a meaningful life is actually beauty? Well, Nietzsche was convinced it was, and we're going to unpack exactly how he argued for it.
All right, so how does he even begin to make a case like that? Well, Nietzsche says that all human creativity, everything we make, is basically fueled by this epic, constant battle between two primal forces, two deep engines of nature. And to give them a name to help us understand them, he looked all the way back to the ancient Greek gods.
So on one side, you've got Apollo. Think of him as the god of order, logic, clear boundaries, the individual. And on the other side, you've got Dionysus. He's all about chaos, raw emotion, that wild collective feeling where you just kind of dissolve into the crowd. And this is the key thing for Nietzsche. These aren't just, different styles of art. He saw them as two completely different ways of being alive, of experiencing the world itself. Let's start with the Apollonian. You can think of this as, well, the power of a calm dream. It's that part of us that just loves order, logic, beautiful, clean forms. Like a perfect marble statue. Nietzsche says this impulse is crucial because it creates this kind of beautiful mask, an illusion really, that helps us handle the absolute chaos of life and make it feel bearable.
And then you've got its total opposite, the Dionysian. It's pure, primal energy. You know that feeling when you completely lose yourself in the beat of a song? Or you get swept up in the energy of a huge crowd at a concert or a festival? That's Dionysus. It's this feeling of intoxication where your sense of self, your individuality just melts away. And for a moment, you feel connected to this raw, chaotic, and yes, sometimes kind of terrifying pulse of life itself. This is the force that rips that neat Apollonian mask right off.
Okay, so you have these two forces constantly at war, right? Order versus chaos, the individual versus the collective. Well, Nietzsche believed that for one brief, shining moment in all of human history, we actually figured it out. We found a way to perfectly balance them, and in doing so, we created what he thought was the absolute pinnacle of art.
And, this is a truly wild claim. Nietzsche is basically saying that the highest point of human culture wasn't the Renaissance, it wasn't the Enlightenment. Nope, it was ancient Greek tragedy, way back around 450 BC. He believed those plays, the ones by guys like Aeschylus and Sophocles, were the most profound art ever made, precisely because they pulled off this perfect balancing act.
So how on earth did it work? Well, it was like this brilliant formula for what he called metaphysical comfort. First, the audience gets hit with this raw Dionysian energy from the chorus, the singing, the dancing, this primal pulse. Then, the Apollonian hero steps on stage. Think of someone like Oedipus, a beautiful, perfectly defined individual. He's the mask that gives all that raw energy a shape we can understand. But here's the magic trick. In the end, the hero is always destroyed. The mask is shattered. And instead of feeling despair, the audience feels this joyful connection to that eternal life force of the chorus. They realize that, yeah, individuals suffer and die, but the pulse of life itself just goes on forever.
But this golden age was fragile, and it didn't last. In fact, according to Nietzsche, this perfect art form wasn't just lost, it was murdered. And he names a culprit, pointing the finger at one of the most famous and celebrated thinkers in all of history.
And the whole thing came crashing down shockingly fast. We're talking just a couple of generations. The entire culture shifted. That powerful, beautiful synthesis of the early tragedians, it got replaced by a totally new way of seeing the world. A worldview championed by, you guessed it, the philosopher Socrates, and a new kind of playwright, Euripides.
And this was the murder weapon.
Socrates basically introduced a new rule for humanity. Everything must be logical to be good. If it isn't rational, it isn't valuable. Suddenly, everything needed a reason, a definition, a logical proof. And can you see how this is just a direct assault on everything Dionysian? That mythic, emotional, totally non-logical power that was the beating heart of tragedy? It just couldn't survive in this new world.
And this gave birth to a whole new kind of person, what Nietzsche called the theoretical man. This is the person who puts all their faith in science and facts, The person who truly believes that any problem, no matter how complex, can be solved with enough intellect and reason. But here's Nietzsche's big warning. This new person, yeah, they could tell you the physics of a sunset, they could explain every particle of light, but they could never truly feel its breathtaking beauty.
Okay, I know what you're thinking. This is all fascinating ancient history, but what does it have to do with me? Well, this is Nietzsche's whole point. He's saying that this crime from 2,400 years ago never went away. It echoes right down to today. He argues that we, you and me, we are all the children of Socrates.
I mean, just look around at our world. It's overflowing with data, with information, with scientific answers for everything. We are obsessed with logic, with optimization, with having all the facts. But doesn't it feel like something's missing sometimes? Does a world that has all the answers but none of the magic, does that sound a little bit familiar? It's like Nietzsche's asking us, have we traded a sense of wonder for a sense of certainty?
Nietzsche has this incredible metaphor for this whole situation. He says we modern humans have built this amazing, strong, stable Apollonian bridge. It's made of logic, science, and order. It's safe. But in staring so hard at our perfect bridge, we've completely forgotten about the wild, powerful, chaotic Dionysian river that's supposed to be flowing underneath it. The river of life, of emotion, of energy. And what's a bridge without a river? It's just a road leading nowhere.
But here's the good news. Nietzsche doesn't just leave us stranded on that bridge. The book isn't just about despair. It's not just a diagnosis of the problem. It's also a prescription for the cure. He really believes there's a way for us to find our way back, to rediscover that river.
So, if logic is the problem, what's the solution? For Nietzsche, the answer was clear. It's art. And above all, it's music. He saw music as the most purely Dionysian art form because it completely bypasses our logical brains and speaks directly to our emotions. Back when he was writing, he pinned all his hopes on the huge, mythic operas of Richard Wagner. He thought that was the art that could finally reawaken that lost spirit in the modern world.
And this all leads to the book's single most famous and maybe most profound line. Nietzsche's point is that life, well, it's full of suffering, it's chaotic, and our rational minds can't just fix it. There's no logical solution to the pain of existence. The only thing that makes it all worthwhile, the only thing that justifies it, is our ability to transform it into something beautiful, to experience life, even the ugly parts, as a work of art.
So that really leaves us with a challenge, doesn't it? In our own very Socratic world, a world run by data and facts and schedules, where do you find your Dionysus? Where do you make space for that wild, chaotic, beautiful energy? Where do you go to connect with that primal pulse of life? That's the question Nietzsche leaves us with, and it's definitely something to think about.